Welcome to Business Accelerants Memos with me, Paul Menig. We plan to accelerate your success by listening to the triumphs and challenges of other middle market leaders of manufacturing, technology, and transportation businesses. So, good day, everybody. Today we have with us Dawn Maree. She is the CEO of a welding company in the Denver, Colorado area. Dawn, welcome to the podcast, Business Accelerants Memos.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. You've got a wonderful story, and it's rather unusual for a woman to be running a welding company. So I would like to get into a little bit about that. How did you get to own a welding company?
My husband and I guess you would call us a serial entrepreneurs. Our first business, we started out of our home and we worked it, grew it, and we exited the successful exit. And after that, we had a free time on our hand. We could retire just like everybody would love to retire early. And we were in that situation where we could have retired early. But after about 2 weeks into it, Matt and I, we realized that we were too much of a busybody to be able to just have no purpose to get up every morning to go do work like we have done for so many years with our first business. And we realized we were not happy with the early retirement option. And so we said, okay, I think that both of us need to do something. Otherwise, I don't know if we're going to stay married because we're just so bored with each other. We're much happier when we had something to wake up to and go do something and then come back together and then, have family time. And so we decided that, okay, this time around, I wanted my own. Matt also wanted to do something different than what we've been doing. And it just happened that during that period, there's a saying that happened or I've come across, and that is, if you're going to own a business, you might want to look into businesses that are Amazon proof, that is now a COVID proof and economic downturn proof. And so I just happened to get an opportunity at that time when I was thinking through what I wanted to do next. A managing business broker approached me and asked me if I would join her firm in helping with selling businesses. And I thought, it would be like selling real estate, I guess. So I joined and then learned quite a bit about selling and buying businesses. And I I did not like being the agent, helping people sell or buy business, because what it did is it took me on the opposite hours of working hours from Matt, and meaning I would have to work weekends and evenings to help with the transaction of buying and selling businesses. And at that time, I was cocky enough to say, I really don't need to sacrifice my time. So what I was able to do is learn a lot as a business broker. And I did that for about a year. I learned a lot. I knew how to look for a business that met the criteria I wanted. And so I just needed to wait it out and see if I can get a business that met the criterias, and that is Amazon proof, COVID proof, and somewhat economic proof, and essential. Basically, the business
Mhm.
that would be an essential business. And so with a business broker knowledge, I was able to, look at various businesses that are on the market, via internet. And I looked at several, dipped my feet into, a lot of non-disclosures just to see what the business is about. And then I came across the welding shop for sale, and it was pretty close, about 20 minutes from here. And that was one of the criterias. Needed to be close to, so I don't have to commute for so long. And this welding shop was ran by a husband and wife, very, very clean, very with a lot of integrity. The couple was had a lot of integrity, and their books were really clean. So everything seemed like it was working. And I'm one of those type of people. I don't need everything to be perfect because if I did that, I would never have bought it. So, and one of the things I realized is that looking at so many businesses during my business broker year, there is not a perfect business that you will buy. Okay. If you want perfect, try to do your own business, and I'm telling you, that in itself has a lot of issues as well. Because 'cause I've done both. Anyway, so long story short, it met probably about 80% of what I wanted, and I moved forward. And no, I had no welding experience.
How long was it from the time you started looking for a business till you put in a, LOI for this business? And then how long till you closed and owned the business?
It took about a year and a half for me to find the business that I wanted to buy, and then the transaction, it was about 4 months.
Well, that's fairly fast close then. Right.
Yeah, so like I guess some people call it, a fault in me, and that is sometimes I shoot before I think. It's like, ready, aim, fire. I tend to fire pretty quick.
There are a lot of people who do that, and it's, can be very successful for them in the process.
Yes, yes.
So, okay. In your LinkedIn profile, I noticed that, you have a lot of words related to caring for the workers. So tell me a little bit about tell the listeners a little bit about what you do to take care of the welders and train the welders and things.
When I looked into what businesses to buy, one of the things I really wanted to do is to elevate blue collar workers. I just felt that the industry did not appreciate the blue collar workers as I believe they should be because they're the one that builds the infrastructure of, big cities and businesses, and so I myself I feel like working in a restaurant I was in a blue collar environment where we were as a cook, we were underappreciated, and I took that to heart in that there's a whole, segment of workers that I don't believe is respected and was underappreciated, and I wanted to do I guess it's a big, lofty goal. I wanted to see what I could do to elevate those group of people that are underappreciated, and I wanna go out there and see, is there something I can do in my position to change the mindset of not only the tradesmen, but also clients, business owners to say, you know what? These guys are not expenses. They are revenue generating people. Without them, your business is not successful. And so I also went to the welders and just asked them, I want you to know, here's what I would like to do to elevate and appreciate your trade in welding. And if you have any opinions as to what else I can do to help you, help the tradesmen be elevated, I'm more than happy to listen because this is a whole new field for me. I grew up in most of my career was in the professional side, and now I'm on the blue collar construction side, and I just feel that all of you guys, most of your guys, are underappreciated, and of course, they're just like they didn't even know what to say because they were also trained as well to underappreciate themselves. So for me to pop that question, it was like, we don't even know how to think like that because we've always been just numbers and just get the work done and here's your paycheck. And so it was very, very surprising to them that And in some ways, I think that they were like, "Oh, that would be great. That would be great if you can achieve that." And I'm not so sure. I may be getting there very slowly, but only in my shop. Though it's getting around, word's getting around, I think, saying that, you know what, that shop, they pay well and they treat their welders so well. So it's going slower than I like.
So I would expect that would show up in the turnover rate for welders in your company. How do you measure that? Do you see the effect?
Well, let me start from when I first purchased the business. I purchased the business with an owner, which is the master welder, and 2 welders. And, mind you, I didn't know anything about welding. And so after the transition period with the owners, which is like 3 months of transition period, he left and I was left with 2 welders. But actually, let me step back. It's hire 5 more welders prior to the master welder leaving so that he can help me train those welders or at least to get them on board because I didn't know enough about welding to actually say that, that person is a good welder or a good fit. And so after he left, I realized that the 2 welders that came with the company, they were not very good welders. So I was a pretty fast learner, by the way. And then I was able to quickly learn what a good weld looks like and what the good team member looks like. And so for the first 2 years, I was just churning a lot of welders. Not that they were quitting, it's more that they didn't fit the quality of weld that I expect, as well as their attitude to become a team member, meaning working together instead of individually and always wanting the very best projects and so on and so forth. And that's a backstory, by the way. But anyway, I got to a point where I was able to keep, what I believed to be really good, top-notch welders. And since then, our churn rate has been almost none.
And how long have you had the company now?
I've had it almost 5 years, and the average right now, I have 6 welders, and they've all been with us, 4 of them for 4 years and 2 of them for 3 years.
Number of welders, I'll assume that translates to something close to double the business since you bought it
Yes,
as a result. So that's wonderful.
yes,
And you said guys, so I'm assuming that none of the welders are women.
you're correct. Not that I didn't want, women, welders. Matter of fact, we even had, women welders coming in to test. The thing that criteria that we use to bring on a welder is that first of all, they have to be able to show us that they can weld. And welding is just one of the components. To be able to weld, you need to be able to cut based on the drawing. You have to be able to cut based on the measurements of the drawing, prep it, what you're welding, and then be able to set it up well enough that you can get a good weld. And so there's a process. And that is when we interview, we really don't interview without that being the first. So we have them test first. And then once they pass the weld test, then we go ahead and send it to independent third party to inspect the weld to make sure it's a good weld. And so whether it's a guy or a lady that coming in to test weld, it doesn't matter to us. What matters to us is that can they weld really well?
And I assume that third party testing, they're able to do X-rays or something
Correct.
of the weld in order to
Bend
determine
test.
what's going on inside.
Yes.
Okay.
So the third party testing company, they do several testing. So bend it to make sure, and then they cut it, they bend it, and then they also X-ray it. Now, reason for that is that most of our clients, they depending on what kind of welding it is and what kind of budget also, they will require that independent third party will come into the site and actually do the test of our guys' welds. So it's very, very important that anybody we send out to our clients' work that their welds are good on a consistent basis. And so, like I said, the criteria for us to bring on a welder is that you first have to be able to weld from beginning to passing the test. And so currently our welders, our 6 welders, it doesn't matter what kind of weld projects they're doing, and we don't know prior to the work whether or not our welds are gonna get tested. Now, 80 to 90% of the time it is, but we just don't know what NDT company that they're gonna be using, testing company that they're gonna be using. We don't know when, and we don't know how many, and it's totally random testing, and our guys are passing pretty much like 95% of the time. And then if our guys don't pass, then we go back and redo it and at no cost because, we do say that our welds are good.
You've welding covers a variety of things. I mean, I know people here in Portland that weld up the garbage tin bins that are used by the large waste management at commercial restaurants, for
Mhm.
instance, and that's one level of welding. And what I've seen from your website and things, you're handling hazardous materials, liquids, and things in large construction sites. And I've seen some of those runs are thousands of feet long, it seems. So
Yes, yes.
much
So,
more important.
yes, we don't do residential. We do commercial, industrial, and we our guys are more specialized in pipe welding, whether it's a carbon pipe or stainless steel pipe. There are occasionally some aluminum, but our yes, you're right. I mean, the scale of what our guys are able to do or the size of work that they are able to do is very, very large.
And a lot of it is going to be on site. How do you deal with weather problems?
Good question, Paul. It's really not an easy work on a person. I mean, it's you need to be able to endure a lot of different weathers. What we do when I first our first project, our first really big project was a project that was a like a food I don't know if it's a food processing building. They were remodeling a huge facility to process various foods that they would distribute to restaurants, and this required stainless steel piping. But it was so much pipe that needed to run to service various products this company was making, whether it's a tomato sauce or it's a refried beans, whether it's a corn. So there was so much piping because of the various foods that they were prepping for restaurant use that the piping had there was so much piping for it that it went on top of a roof, and then we had to connect it into these huge bins for them to be able to utilize it, and the the pipes are huge, and then you add the rooftop, and then you add the elements. So it was a whole year project. So we went through both summer, the winter, all seasons, right? So
Wow.
in the winter, we provided them, and of course, I had to get opinions from the seasoned welders. What can I do to make this work for you with these freezing temperatures?
Mm.
So we had to get a one of those the ice fishing tents,
Aha.
but a large, large ice fishing tents, right?
Yes.
And so I bought several of them so that they can work under it. And because, there's always a deadline. The longer the construction takes, the more money it takes. So we were very aware that it's not going to be our team that's going to hold up the project just because of the weather. And our guys are used to it too. But I just wanted to make it a little bit, a little bit less harsh on them. So on the rooftop, while it's snowing, what can I do? So we were very creative. And in the summer, something different. So we would buy lots of tents, but tents that are, not to keep warmth, but to shade as
Mhm.
well as to get the air moving. And of course, with also lots of fans. But then
Yeah.
again, they were very creative as to how to utilize the fan and so on. So yes, it's a very harsh environment that our guys have to work, even in the city. I mean, when you're working at ditches, rooftops, confined spaces, and all that. So, but we figure out a way to make sure that they're comfortable and know that, guys, safety. I'm all about safety, and I want to make sure that I keep you healthy and I keep you safe. So anything I can do, let's talk about it.
So on the expense side, certainly you have the labor for the welder. The material, the pipes and things are bought by the general contractor, probably not by you. So all you have is the welding supplies, right?
Actually, we most of the time we're the one that is purchasing all the materials for the job.
Wow. So
So
how
what
have
are
you been impacted by the pricing of stainless steel and other things this last few years?
what's interesting is that our clients are very understanding because it didn't just the pricing just didn't affect welding. It affected everybody. And so because of its commonality that the pricing is affecting everything, it was not a hard thing to try to convince the clients saying, "Hey, materials have gone up. And by the way, we can only guarantee the material cost for 5 days and it could change." So that was probably the most unsettling to our clients is that, look, here's our proposal, but 40% of your work is material cost. And by the way, we can't guarantee this price. We can guarantee for 5 days, but if you don't give us a go ahead, then we can't guarantee the price.
Wow, that hurts
Yeah.
everybody.
Yes, yes, yes. And so, of course, now it's a permanent thing in our estimate saying that, the estimate of the material cost, we cannot guarantee for, we can maybe, stay on course for 5 days, but after that, we may have to, reestimate the materials.
I see over your left shoulder the stages of growth matrix for the Rewild group. How have you used the Rewild group's information to help guide you in your business the last 5 years?
Fortunately enough, when the Rewild group is my husband's passion, and he decided that that's the path he wanted to go, and I wanted to go in the path of owning a blue collar business. And so I said, Matt, why don't we use your methodology and see how you could help me with welding business? And one of the things that is was really not, Rewild Group was not really planning to help me transition. In other words, transition from prior owner to us, to me. But it was really interesting. Matt used his methodology, not knowing that this was the purpose, helped me transition so smoothly from a prior owner to me who knew nothing about welding. And so when the it transitioned between what was in the prior owner's mind, which he was a master welder, so he had so much knowledge inside him, but he would not have known how to translate that to me so that I can utilize his knowledge as the new owner for the welding shop. So Matt, using his methodology, he organized how the prior owner transferred the knowledge to me. After the prior owner left, I had no questions because Matt had already structured everything for me. And he realized, oh my goodness, this would be great offering to prior business owners and or new business owner. So
Mm.
that was one avenue. And then the other avenues is just from the get-go, the infrastructure. So we use the Rewild Group's methodology to set the infrastructure. The prior owner did a lot of the running of the business manually. So not not utilizing electronically and so on and so forth. So for instance, timesheets. The welders would have a weekly paper timesheet and they would have to fill in hours that they worked for a certain client and the next client, what hours did you work? It was all manual. And in order to do the timesheet, they had to be in the shop to do the timesheet. And mind you, you have to, a lot of the blue collar environment, you have to pay them weekly. And
Hmm.
so that was so cumbersome. And that was the first thing we changed as far as infrastructure goes. Invoicing, same thing. We changed the infrastructure of invoicing, which made it much easier for clients to pay much faster. For us to be able to also send out the invoices much faster. The client interactions, he was able to, Rewild Group's methodology was able to focus on the key things I needed to start running the business. And of course, after about 6 months, 9 months, then we also used the other features of a Rewild Group, meaning teamwork, brand values, core values. And with all of the infrastructures working together, then you're not putting so much of your effort just trying to understand and figure out, okay, how do I how do I make this work? How do I make this work? How do I make this work? It all flowed together. Not that it was without a glitch here and there. We knew the glitch. We did not take that in consideration, so we would fit it in. And so just having a streamlined with a Rewild Group's infrastructure system, it was just, I mean, from somebody that had no knowledge of a business that I just bought to I can run the business.
It's amazing. That's a great testament going from a master welder who probably had it all in his head,
25
didn't write
years,
anything down, to
correct.
having standardized processes, inspections, expectations, the brand values and the core values. You can see that being important to being able to get more business in the community.
And not only that, the brand values and core values also allowed our welders to know our standards. So, they knew how to our expectations, the company's expectations of how to treat each other, how to be when you're out in the field working on clients' work, how to interact with the clients, how to be there for one another. So I think all that, Paul, was so new to these guys. A lot of these guys, they've been a prior rig welders, meaning, solopreneur type of thing.
Yeah. So that's interesting. I've often talk in manufacturing that manufacturing people could learn from people in the restaurant business who are constantly facing the customer. How was your meal? Get the order right. Check back a variety of things, and then you look at what you're talking about, and now you're training the welders how to interact with people when they don't have that welding hat on with the sunglasses, and a torch in their hand.
Yes. Yes, yes. And I think it's very new to them because I think that they are kind of, pulled back as to interacting with, you know, other tradesmen that are working in the same project and they don't know how to interact with one another. It's almost like give me a permission and direction on how to interact with other people. It was astonishing. That's probably one of the surprising things that I got out of it is that don't you interact with one another? And I realized it's because they were not trained. I don't know, training is needed, but more given permission and direction. And so we decided, you know what? Here are core values, here are our brand values, and this is what it means. And here's an example. And so that gave them confidence to be able to interact, you know, socially and respectfully to one another as well as out in the field.
That's great. We're coming up on time to end our discussion today. What advice would you give to another woman who wants to own her own business?
I'd say don't let the fear get the best of you. Know that there is a fear. Don't ignore that there isn't, but there is. But put more weight into what you want to do, what you know you can do.
And can learn to do from what I hear too.
Yes, yes, yeah, and yeah, because I believe that when you believe that you can do it, you you know, even anybody, not just me, but anybody, when they set their mind to doing something and have something to prove, sure. You know, it's not that I don't have fear. I do. I just don't put a lot of weight into it because if I did, I'd never do it. And so as a female, I'm sure that's even worse, especially in a male-dominated, environment, and I basically just say, "You know what? This especially in today's age, it's really not male-dominated. It's only a stigma that says it's male-dominated." So it never really stopped me. It was just needed to meet certain criterias of what business I wanna be in. It met it. Okay, maybe 80%, and I can make do with the other 20%. So the other 20% could be unknown, which most people would say fear. But you know what? What about the 80%?
So, for the people who are listening or watching on YouTube, what is the URL for your company?
It's commercialweldingusa.com.
Okay, wonderful. Any place else you'd like them to learn more about you and your company?
I believe that the website does pretty well. We are really not out there in the social media a whole lot because a lot of our relationship is out in the field, basically. And a lot of the construction is still not so much in the social media, but more, in person type of relationships.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Don, for spending some time with us on Business Accelerants Memos and helping us to understand that even those beefy, individualistic welders have a personality underneath there that needs to be nurtured.
Yes. Thank you so much, Paul.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye bye.
You've heard the challenges, the triumphs, and or the tools and strategies. Now it's time to apply them. Thanks for joining us on Business Accelerants Memos. For show notes and more tools designed for middle market leaders, visit us at www.businessaccelerants.com. Until the next dispatch, keep your momentum high and continue to accelerate your success.